Hello friends, thank you for joining me at Finance Working Mama. My name is Heather. I decided to do something a little different this week. You know, I typically plan 6 dinners during the week, and the 7th day I usually have leftovers. I want to eat up all the leftovers as much as possible, and those 6 meals that I have cooked need to render enough for the 7th day, as well as some additional lunches. It's for during the week because my husband and I, like and daughters, we take our lunches to school or work. So I said, I'm going to use one of my favorite cookbooks. It's called $10 Dinners, but she was the winner of one of those seasons. I can't remember which one. From that, she got her own show. She named $10 Dinners, and she wrote a cookbook, and maybe she wrote another one. I'm not quite sure. But this is the one that I bought because I loved her. I loved her concept. I loved the fact that it was $10 dinners. And I wanted to see if I could take a good number of her recipes from this book and plan 6 dinners that would give me enough leftovers for the 7th day, as well as lunches for the week. Now, this book was written close to 12 years ago, potentially. Yeah, 12 years ago. Prices were different, as you guys all know. So I'm wondering if I can accomplish that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you with you the items I bought and the recipes I chose. Not every day is a recipe from this book, but a lot of them are. And I will share with you, number 1, if my family enjoyed it, and 2, if it met the $10 criteria at the end of the 6 days. The part that I'm scared of the most is my kids. I'm hoping my kids will enjoy it because they've tried good part. They've tried none of these recipes except for maybe one. Yeah. And a concept of another. So we'll see how it all rides. Grocery items that I shopped for my 6 days, my meal plan that is basically surrounded by the incredible edible egg, as you see those in the back. I went to Aldi first because they're typically cheaper on most of their items than Walmart, and so this is over here is what I bought at Aldi. It was actually cheaper to buy 2 dozen eggs. I only needed 18, but it was cheaper to buy 2 dozen eggs at Aldi versus buying just 18 at Walmart. So that's why we had 24 eggs. Got pork chops, and then of course we got turkey breast. And then there's a story behind this white vinegar, and I will explain it in a minute. And then of course we have soy sauce, and we have pie crust. I need actually 2 for a recipe, and my children eat fruit with every dinner, so none of the recipes call for fruit, but to honor what their expectations are for dinner, I got them fruit to get them through 6 dinners, and they will actually split a banana, so they'll have 2 nights with bananas, and then of course strawberries for the rest. And all of these actually are in a recipe, or they will be a part of a salad as a side. This was actually supposed to be white button mushrooms because that's usually the cheaper mushroom, but Aldi had a sale, and they were this was cheaper than white button. So of course I just upgraded and did the baby bellas. So that was a nice little treat and find. Then I went over to Walmart to get the rest, and my kids, Aldi has green beans, but my kids really like these long green beans, steamable, and I'm going to use this for a side for a couple nights. And then I just needed 3 potatoes. I could have gotten a large bag at Aldi, but that would have busted my budget. So I went there and just got the 3 potatoes for the recipe that I needed. And that's the same as for the lemons. I could have bought a bag of lemons at Aldi, but it would have busted my budget. I only really just needed 2. And then I just needed 1 thing of garlic. Bacon was cheaper at Walmart this time, as well as the 2-pound bag of long grain rice. And Got some Parmesan. This was at Walmart as well. It was cheaper than Aldi, which was unusual, but you know, I think it was like 50 cents difference. So, I mean, that's 50 cents saved, right? And then whipping cream. I'm going to use that in 2 different recipes. And this is where the vinegar comes into play. This is expensive. This is an expensive ingredient. This is almost $4. And the recipe calls for this, soy sauce, and rice wine vinegar. And rice wine was almost $3 as well. And I thought to myself, I can't do both. And this has a stronger flavor. So I just felt like no one really could tell the difference if I used white vinegar versus rice wine vinegar. So that's the reason why I got the white vinegar versus the rice wine, because of the expense. So a little pricey, but it's what we're going to try for. Dijon mustard, we're going to use that for a couple recipes. Of course, we have thyme leaves and crushed red peppers. And then we have panko breadcrumbs. Walmart had plain and they had Italian. Both were the same price. I went with the Italian style. The recipe does not call for Italian style. However, I feel like more flavor is just better. And then we have the Barilla Orzo pasta. Now, this was on rollback for $1 this week. I'm going to use this for 2 different recipes. However, I went around the corner and saw this on the discount bakery rack for 70 cents. So, you know, why not? All right, gang. So this is what I'm going to be using for 6 meals for 6 days. And these recipes should deem leftovers for the 7th day as well as lunches. So let's see how this week comes along. $10 dinners. And the star of the week is the incredible edible egg. I think that was the marketing for the egg world. I want to say probably in the early 2000s, maybe. But this is what has inspired my week of meal plans. All about the eggs. So, what did I come up with? Now, I will preface something. My youngest daughter is allergic to eggs, and I'm not the hugest fan of eggs. However, I have improved over the course of many years that I will eat certain things. And what I have picked out will allow me to eat the eggs. So needless to say, my oldest daughter and my husband is thrilled with this menu because they love eggs. Now, remember, my recipes all of them needed 18 eggs, but I got a really great deal at Aldi. It was cheaper to buy 2 dozen eggs versus just 18 eggs at Walmart. So I ended up getting 24 eggs versus 18. What am I going to cook for the week? So, not every single dinner has an egg in it, but just about all of them do. I'm going to start off with the potato bacon torte. This is extremely delicious. This is where the bacon is going into, and when I'm using the pie shells and the potatoes. Now, this is a hearty meal. I'm going to pair it with a salad. It is a very hearty meal, but it is just so delicious. It doesn't seem like much, and you wouldn't think it would be much, but it's delicious. Also, I'm going to do scrambled eggs with mushrooms. Now, this is a lot of eggs, and if my mother is watching, she's probably laughing, saying there's no way she's going to eat that for her dinner. However, I was told, and I've seen on numerous illustrations, that if you put heavy cream in with your eggs, it changes the texture of it. So people who typically don't like eggs will like them. So we'll see. We'll see if I like them or not. But I'm going to eat them. Now, obviously, my youngest daughter will not be able to eat this for her dinner because she's allergic to eggs. But she is going to have pork chops, which
you'll know at the beginning, I mentioned that I got a great sale on pork chops that gave me more pork chops than usual, which was a plus because I knew that my daughter Amelia could not eat eggs. So she will enjoy a pork chop, which she will be perfectly happy with her pork chop. We're going to have this with toast, that long thing of French bread that I had, that I purchased. That will go along with this, as well as some veggies on the side, salad if needed. But this is pretty hearty. It's got like 9 eggs in it, and mushrooms and lots of onions. So I love the onions part and I love the mushroom part. We'll see how it goes. I'll let you know if I like it or not. But we have enough stuff for salad to have that on the side, as well as we have enough fruit too. The next thing we have is the fried brown rice and eggs. I did not get the brown rice. I stuck with white rice just because I like white rice better. And basically it's fried rice with a fried egg in the middle. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do the fried egg. I'm going to have to be completely fair with you. I don't know. I'm debating. But I can scramble up my eggs into the fried rice and eat it. But I think what makes this really delicious is the garlic soy vinaigrette that you put on top of it. So that is one dish we're going to have. The next one, this is a side that I'm making, Lemon-Thyme Orzo. This will be paired with the BLT. BLT is another item that is on the menu. It is not in here as a recipe, but I had to buy bacon for the potato torte, which means I'm going to have bacon left over, which is great because I'm going to have some lettuce and tomato, so that makes great BLTs. And the egg that's involved in the BLTs is I'm making homemade mayonnaise. First time ever, but it does require 1 egg, and I'm going to see how this all works out. Fingers crossed I can make mayonnaise. They say it's not hard, but then I've heard others say it goes in a disastrous way, so I'm not sure. We're going to try it though. But I'm going to use this as a side item for the BLTs, as well as the pork loin. Now, this recipe calls for pork loin, thin cut pork loin. You can buy that at the grocery store. However, remember, I got a great deal on pork chops. Thin pork chops on the bone gave me over 2 pounds. So that will give me enough for this meal with some leftovers, as well as a couple pork chops for Miss Amelia, who cannot eat eggs. That will be a side item, as well as with some salad to this. And I think that is it. And the last one is this salad. Now, this salad calls for tuna. My kids, they don't like tuna. So I'm foregoing the tuna, and that is why I purchased the deli meat. They like deli turkey. So I'm putting that in place of the tuna. And that's basically lots of salad greens. That's where the green beans come into play. That's the last potato. I bought 3 potatoes, only needed 2 for my torte. The last one I'm going to chop up and put in there with some tomatoes, the boiled eggs, and this really nice tasty vinaigrette. So that is the plan. Lots of eggs involved, or at least partially involved in this dinner plan. So we're going to see. It sounds delicious. The only one I'm really afraid of, and really the only one that I haven't had 2 of these. I've had the salad, I've had the pork chops, I've had the potato torte. It's one of my favorites. I've had the Lemon-Thyme Orzo. The fried rice vinaigrette I have not had, and I have not had obviously, the scrambled eggs and wild mushrooms. So, well, that's the only one I'm worried about because I'm not a big eggy person, but we will see. They say whipping cream does phenomenal with scrambled eggs. I need the whipping cream for the potato torte, so it just made it natural. Whipping cream is expensive. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I feel like it's really expensive. So I wanted to make sure we used it. So that's why I chose this. So we'll see, guys.
Homemade mayo and BLTs. This is my first attempt to make homemade mayo. Doesn't seem difficult, but I think it's the process of being patient. You want to start with 1 room temperature egg, crack it, and then put it in the blender and blend it for 30 seconds. I will be honest, I did not have a room temperature egg. I took it straight out of the fridge and I put it straight into the blender. After you blend it for 30 seconds, then that is when you want to add 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. After you put those ingredients into the egg mixture, you want to blend that for 30 seconds. After you blend it for 30 seconds, that is when you want to bring in the most important ingredient, which makes it mayo, is oil. The recipe says that you should choose vegetable oil, 1 cup of vegetable oil, but I chose to use 1 cup of olive oil because I thought it would taste better. This is the part that becomes a little bit more difficult. And it's not difficult in the process, but it's more the patience. And that is, you have to take that entire cup and you have to slowly drizzle it into the egg Dijon vinegar mixture. This process takes about 7 minutes. Now they say do a drizzle until you start to see the mixture thicken. That is the part that you need the patience, because you just want to just really do a heavy drizzle and get it over with, but you can't. You have to be patient and do a drizzle of oil. And you want to blend it. This part takes about 4.5 minutes. And you say, oh, that's not too bad. However, you're holding that measuring cup up for that long, doing a drizzle, so that you can see it thicken. Now, as we're waiting for this to sort of show that it's thickening, it's sort of hard to see how it all comes together in the video. But as we're waiting for it to thicken a little bit, I wanted to let you guys know that another side item that I was pairing with the BLT is the Lemon-Thyme Orzo side dish. For whatever reason, I forgot to video how to make that. It's really easy. It is a simple, delicious side dish, and I paired it not only with the BLTs, but I also paired it with an additional menu item later in the week. I will explain how to make that as we're going through the BLTs. It's pretty simple how to make a BLT, so I think you'll get the grasp of it. Let's go back to this wonderful mayo that we're making. Now, again, we are still at this drizzle, and we're coming to close to, now I did condense the video, so you're not watching the full 7 minutes of making mayo. But at this point, we're about 4 minutes in, and I can start to see it changing and thickening. At least I notice it. It's still hard, even in person, to see if it's thickening. But as I'm watching and dribbling and drizzling this oil into the blender, I decided, okay, I think it's thickened enough, or it looks like it's thickening enough to stop it and check. And so I did. I checked it and I noticed, okay, it has thickened up. So at this point, we can make the oil go in a tad bit faster. So it'd be more of a consistent drizzle and not a dribble drizzle. If you can picture what a dribble drizzle is. But a decent little stream of oil to finish incorporating. I don't know if you could see that's a 1 cup measuring cup, and I had incorporated about a 1/2 cup of the dribble drizzle till it thickened, and I had another 1/2 cup left. Now, I will have to say, this was very easy to make. I'm not sure why I was so intimidated of making homemade mayo. I think because they say you have to have patience in slowly incorporating the oil. And for some reason, I just felt like that was too complicated. And it was not complicated, but I did have to have a good level of patience to do it. The whole mayo process took about 7.5 minutes, so it's really not that bad. And I will have to say, it came out very delicious. And the important piece about it is it's homemade and it tastes so much better than what you buy in the grocery store. I'm a Duke's fan to the end. I love Duke's mayonnaise. I think it's the best mayonnaise made out there. And this homemade mayo, yeah, it beats Duke's by far, hands down. Now you'll see right there, look at that. It's nice and thick. Yum, yum, yum. It turned out delicious. It's gonna make the best BLTs, for sure. Now, obviously it didn't take all of this mayo to make the BLT, so we have plenty left over for, you know, another week or two, depending on how often we use mayo. But I do highly encourage you to try making your own homemade mayo if you have not. And it just takes 1 egg and some oil and some vinegar and salt. I did do about a teaspoon of lemon at the end. That did not require it, was not part of the recipe, but I read somewhere else that the lemon just gives it a fresh taste to it. And so before I finished, after I blended it, I did squeeze in a teaspoon of fresh lemon juice and I mixed it in and then spread it on my bread for the BLTs. Now, obviously, a BLT needs the most important ingredient, which is not only mayo, but bacon. I'm only going to use a half a pack of this bacon for BLTs tonight, and I'm saving the other half for another recipe later in the week. And I'm just going to lay these out on my air fryer pan and have it cooked up. I feel like it cooks up bacon a lot faster, and it's a lot less messier when I do it in the air fryer. So as I'm laying this out and preparing the BLTs with the lettuce and tomato, I'm going to quickly tell you on how I made the side that I placed with the BLTs that evening. And that is the Lemon-Thyme Orzo pasta dish that you serve warm. The ingredients that you need for this dish is 1.5 cup of chicken broth. And I use broth base because I have tons of it. But I use 1.5 cups of chicken broth. I did 1 garlic clove. I pressed the garlic. You can press it or finely mince it. 2 cups of water. 3/4 of a cup of Orzo pasta. The zest of 1/2 of a lemon. 2 tablespoons of finely chopped fresh thyme. Now, I have a hard time finding fresh thyme in the supermarkets when I need it. And so after two stores, I just said, forget it. I'm going to use the dried thyme, which is the reason why I purchased dried thyme in the grocery haul for the $60 meal dinners, $10 dinners. But I only use, since it's dried thyme leaves, I only use 1 tablespoon of dried thyme. And then 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, and then 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese. You want to bring the broth, the garlic, the red pepper flakes, a pinch, and the water to a boil. The instructions tell you to put the fresh thyme in at the end before serving, but I like to put the either fresh or dried thyme in during the boiling process because I feel like it makes the Orzo taste better. Just infuses the flavor so much better. So do the broth, the garlic, the water, the red pepper flakes, and the thyme. Bring it up to a good boil. And then you want to stir in your Orzo pasta. And then you want to reduce the heat to medium-low. You want to simmer it until about 2/3 of the liquid is absorbed. And the Orzo still looks creamy and loose. Stirring in occasionally. This process takes about 10 minutes. The Orzo will soak up more of the liquid as it cools. Now, you want to take it away from the heat. Then you want to stir in your lemon zest, your salt, and your Parmesan cheese. And you serve it warm. It is a delicious side dish and everyone will enjoy it. Now, of course, I made it for the BLTs and I also made it for the pork chops. It's so easy to make and so quickly to make, and you don't have to really pay a lot of attention to it. Once you get the water boiling and you stir in the Orzo, you just let it do its thing. So we had this for the BLTs as well with another menu item later in the week, which I will show you later. All right, now we're coming to putting it all together. Now let me tell you about this French bread. It was the 70-cent French bread at Walmart, and I'm telling you, this bread felt like it just kept coming. It was the gift that kept on giving. I made BLTs with it, and then I made toast with it to go with another menu item. Then we had almost like a third of a loaf left over, and so then I cut it and put butter on the bread and gave it to my children as a side item for their dinners throughout the week. I mean, it just kept going, but it was really delicious, and surprisingly it made some really nice BLTs. Now right here I took out my little griddle and I spread the fresh mayo that we just made, and I toasted it on the griddle versus just popping bread in the toaster and toast it. I thought I would, hey, I got all this wonderful mayo, I'm just gonna smear that on there, give it some extra flavor. I'm telling you guys, this was the best BLT I've ever put together, and I made it at the house. And I think what just was the star of the show was the mayo, because the mayo was so delicious. I highly recommend you trying, if you've never made it, try this recipe. And I think what really put it over the edge was after I blended the mayo and it thickened, and I took it out and I mixed in that teaspoon of lemon into the mayo. I think that just really like made it the best, honestly. I think it just made it the special touch, is that teaspoon of lemon juice at the end. Now, I made my husband 2 BLTs because he has a bigger appetite than myself and the girls. The girls did not have like the BLT sandwich because they have a hard time eating. One is obviously like 6 and it's hard for her to chew because she's losing her teeth, and I got another one that has like a retainer at the top of her mouth. So eating toasty bread is a little bit difficult. So I basically just put butter on their bread and put the bacon, the lettuce, and tomato on their plates, and I let them either make their sandwich or eat it separately with a side of that lemon Orzo pasta. But at the end of the day, we all ate the same ingredients, just different ways. But my husband and I did enjoy the full compact of the made BLT sandwich. Look at that, friends. Does that not look absolutely delicious? Homemade mayo on a toasted French bread. What can be better? This is a must-try recipe. It is so delicious. If you like pork chops of any kind, you have to try this recipe with it. Now, the recipe does call for pork loin or pork loin cutlets. I found a great deal on thinly sliced pork chops on the bone, so I chose that instead. It actually helped me save a step because the recipe calls for the pork loin cutlet or pork chops to be pounded to a thin, close to 1/4 of an inch thin. So once you have that completed, or if you're lucky enough like me and find some that's already pretty thin, you want to take 2 tablespoons of olive oil into a gallon-sized resealable bag. Then you want to add the garlic, which is 3 garlic cloves. You want to finely mince or press thoroughly through a garlic press. I chose a garlic press. Then you want to add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You want to mix the olive oil and the salt and the garlic all together. Make sure it's very well incorporated. Then you want to put your pork chops in the resealable bag, and you want to massage and shake the olive oil, garlic, and salt all over those pork chops. Now, they ask for you to do this 15 minutes. Let it marinate for 15 minutes in the fridge. However, I'm telling you, it tastes so much better if you do it the night before, or even give it more than 15 minutes, maybe an hour. Usually I do it the night before, and then I stick it in the fridge and pull it out 10 minutes before I start cooking it. Also, as you can see, you need 1 egg whisked and then 1 1/2 cups of panko bread.
I need a little bit more panko bread because my pork chops are a little bit thicker. I mean, not thicker, whiter. So I probably used about 2 cups of that panko bread. I'm going to dredge the pork chops in the egg mixture and then dredge it through the panko. Make sure you shake it off and put it in the pan. As simple as that. Now, keep in mind that since these pork chops are thin, they cook up fairly quickly. So stay nearby. On the other side of that pan, which you cannot see, is the Lemon-Thyme Orzo pasta that I've mentioned it. I made some for the BLTs and then I'm making some tonight. Once you have that water boiling and you put the Orzo pasta in the pan, you could just let it do its thing. It's going to take 10 minutes. So that way you can move on and do something else, like these beautiful pork chops. Right there you'll see that I have 3 in the pan. I did make 2 more. My husband had 2 and each of my children had 1 and I had 1 myself. I had plenty left over pork chops for during the week, and that was important because Miss Amelia can't have eggs. So in place of eggs, she ate a pork chop. Now, while these are cooking, start preparing your salad. This salad is called for arugula salad. I couldn't find arugula, and I was quite honest a little concerned that my children wouldn't like the peppery taste of arugula. So I just went with spinach. Everyone loves spinach, so I played it safe and did spinach. But truly, you could use whatever green leaf lettuce that your children enjoy and your family enjoys. So I'm washing the spinach, getting that ready, and the salad is simple. It is the greens, and the vinaigrette. And the vinaigrette is extremely easy. It calls for 1/2 of a lemon, and so I have 1 lemon. I've washed it, I've cut it in half. 1/2 I will use it for the vinaigrette, and the other half I will cut it in 4ths and then put a little bit of lemon juice on each pork chop before serving. And you don't want to miss that step because that lemon juice on top of the fried pork chop, it really just sets the flavors to a different level, and you don't want to miss that step. Now, I did not salt or pepper any of this even before I dredged it in the egg in the panko. The panko was seasoned with some Italian seasoning. The recipe does not call for that, but I chose to do it because, I mean, quite honest, Italian panko costs the same as plain panko. And I figured, well, we'll see what the flavor tastes like, and it did turn out delicious. However, it did not need to be salted or peppered. So keep that in mind. And I typically don't salt and pepper this, even with the plain panko. For whatever reason, the marinade just provides it enough flavor. Okay, friends, it is time to plate the dinner up. So I'm putting the salads on each plate now. You'll see I just put salad greens or just the spinach on my daughter's plates. They don't like the salad dressing. So for us, however, we do like the salad dressing, and we're going to have it on our greens. The salad dressing is actually quite simple. It only calls for 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then of course 1/2 of an onion squeezed, as well as some salt and pepper. It does say that you'll need about 3 cups of arugula or baby greens, or another baby greens is what it says. So I say if you have salad, you could add as much or as little as you want. If you want more olive oil, put it in. If you want less olive oil, make it less. You will also see that I'm going to add some shallot to the salad, and it does not require any other items other than just the greens and the vinaigrette, but I had an extra shallot that needed to be used, so I decided to throw it in. I also did top it with a little Parmesan cheese because I had some left. I have a ton of Parmesan cheese, so I thought let's just utilize it with each recipe when it would add just an extra notch of flavor. Again, the recipe does not call for the shallot or the Parmesan cheese. I had it available, so I decided to use it. Now, we did have a side of Lemon-Thyme Orzo pasta. I put the Orzo pasta in a little craft for my children to eat and enjoy. It's just a little bit easier for them to eat. I also cut up their pork chops, and my littlest one, Amelia, loves ketchup. So I put ketchup on her plate with, of course, some strawberries because they like fruit with their dinner. And there we go. There we go, guys. Does that not look delicious? It was a fantastic meal. It came together extremely quick and perfect for a weeknight meal. Scrambled eggs and wild mushrooms. Okay, friends, this is a perfect recipe for a busy weeknight. As you know, scrambled eggs come together very easy, so it's not just a breakfast menu item. It could be dinner as well, and I'm going to show you how to step it up a notch. So the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I chose to use 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Then it asks for a half of a small onion finely chopped. I might have mentioned in my past recipes that I had a ton of green onion in a package I bought at Aldi, so I just chose to use the green onion instead. Then it says a half a teaspoon of kosher salt, or whatever salt you have on hand, and 6 wild mushrooms chopped. Now, I'm using Baby Bella's because 1, it was available, and 2, it was less expensive. And I'm not even sure if I could find wild mushrooms. I mean, they're a little difficult to find sometimes, and I really don't like portobello mushrooms, the big ones. So these work just fine, as you can see. And then the one that I'm scared of is 9 large eggs. So as you know, friends, I mentioned I am not an egg fan, so I'm going outside of my comfort zone. Then you want to do 1/4 of a cup for heavy cream or milk. I chose the heavy cream because I needed it for another recipe, but the heavy cream is what I have been told will change the texture of the eggs, which is what I am looking for, the change of texture. And then you want to also do 1 scallion chopped because you're going to want to top the eggs once they're done with that green onion or scallion. And then 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan, and then 1/4 teaspoon ground black pepper. So as you can see right there, I took about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm going to saute the vegetables until they are softened or translucent. And they say in the recipe to go ahead and salt and pepper it here, but I have always been told not to salt mushrooms until they get almost done, and then salt the mushrooms. They say that it will dry, the salt will pull out all the moisture of the mushrooms, and it will make it dense or the texture off. So I'm just going to wait to salt the veggies once I feel it's pretty good and softened and finished. Now the recipe does call for 9 eggs, and you want to crack the 9 eggs, and then you want to put 1/4 of a cup of heavy cream into the eggs. Now I did probably a heavy a heavy amount of heavy cream because I really wanted the texture of the eggs to change, because I don't like the ripperness of them when you don't add the cream. And this is where I salt and pepper them. Now, I've shortened the video, obviously, so you don't have to see me whip eggs forever, but you want to take your time and make sure you incorporate the eggs and the cream together very well, because that is really how it changes the texture and the fluffiness of the eggs, is how much you whisk it. So I whisk them really, really well before putting them in the pan to cook. The recipe also says that you need to remove the veggies from the pan. They want the eggs to cook separately. So I did that. Usually I would just dump the eggs in there, but I'm going to follow the instructions because, again, I told you, I don't like eggs. So I want to make sure that I cook this correct to give this recipe and eggs a fair shot. Once I have the mushrooms removed, then that's when you want to add probably the last tablespoon of butter that it calls for. But of course, I'm going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil at the bottom of the pan. And as always, if you haven't made scrambled eggs, just let it set up a little bit. I turned the burner off, obviously, when I removed the veggies, and I waited to turn the burner back on once I had the eggs in the pan. I like the eggs to come up to temperature slowly. I feel like it makes a better scrambled egg, and it also gives me a little time to work around the kitchen as it's setting up. Now, while these eggs are starting to set up, I have decided to use some French bread from that French bread loaf that I had with the BLTs. I put a little cut slices of it, and I put olive oil on top, and I put them in the air fryer to toast up. I figured that'd make a great addition to this recipe. As well as I'm going to pull out Roma tomatoes that I have pre-sliced from Sunday, so that way I can just pull it out and plate it quickly. I'm also going to put that a part of the recipe tonight. I think that'd be a nice side dish. Again, I'm salt and peppering a little bit more. I didn't taste it. I just felt like it needed a little bit more. I probably should have tasted it, but I didn't. And at this point, right before it's done, and you guys know what that means, like right before the scrambled eggs are complete, and we're at that point, you want to put in the mushrooms and onions back into your dish. Once you have the veggies mixed in well, this is where you want to put in 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. I put in 2 heavy tablespoons of Parmesan cheese because why not? I had extra, and more cheese is always good. At least that's what my husband will tell you. Now this is done. As you can see, it is ready to be plated, and this came together extremely quick. And if you haven't done scrambled eggs in a weeknight dinner, you should, especially this one. Look at that. It's ready to be plated. This is for my husband, which it looks like a lot of eggs, but he's going to take Amelia's eggs because he has a heavier appetite than we all do, and Amelia can't eat eggs, so she is going to have a pork chop, and she is completely fine with eating a pork chop for her dinner. Now, everyone's wondering, did I enjoy it? Did I enjoy this dish? And yes, I did. It was wonderful. The eggs were perfect in their texture. Right there, you see I'm topping it with a little bit of more parm, and I'm going to also top it with a little bit more green onion as well. But yes, it was delicious. I especially enjoyed it. I put it on top of the French bread toast, as you can see right there. Between the mushrooms and the whipping cream that made it light and fluffy, it did change the flavor and the texture, and I will have this again. So I was excited that I would have normally never tried it, but I did this time, and I'm proud of myself. I did enjoy it, and I will be making it again for myself as well as my family. Look at that, friends. Does that not look delicious? It's a try. You must try it. I know it's just eggs, but the mushrooms and the onions, it made a delicious meal. Potato bacon torte. Friends, this is one of my favorite recipes, and I'm excited to share with you how to make it, and hopefully you'll serve it for your family. You need to start off with a saucepan, and you want to put in about 2/3 cup of heavy cream. That's what they say in the recipe, but you always use more cream, so I'd at least start off with a cup of heavy cream in the saucepan. And then you want to add, the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of dried tarragon. I didn't have dried tarragon, and I was going to use thyme in a couple other recipes, so I used 2 teaspoons of dried thyme. Both spices are delicious with this meal, so you choose which one you enjoy the best. You want to put the saucepan on the stove and let it heat up slowly. Now, as the heavy cream is heating up on the stove, at this point you want to prepare the pie pan with its dough as well as the potatoes. And so you want to peel 2 large potatoes. Those 2 large potatoes will make 4 layers, and you do need 4 layers of potatoes, so keep that in mind if you don't have very large potatoes to work with. You just need enough potatoes for 4 layers. Alright, next we're going to start cutting the bacon. The recipe does call for 4 bacon strips, halved crossways. Now, I'm going to let you know that I actually chop my bacon. I feel like the chopped bacon works better with the potato torte. The smaller pieces allow it to spread better, as well as when you cut your potato torte in slices, it's easier to slice as well. And you'll see what I mean when we top the bacon with the last layer. You are only going to use the bacon for the fourth and final layer of this potato torte. I'm going to set that bacon aside and work on the next item, and that is the pie crust. Now, I don't have the gift of making pie crust homemade. I've struggled with that. If you have a fail-proof pie crust recipe, please put it in the comments below. I would love to know, and I would love to try it because I have not been successful. I've tried a good number of them and it just has not worked out for me. Or if you have tips in making pie crust homemade, provide those in the comments as well. I would love to learn. I'm using two store-bought pie crust today. I bought it from Aldi. I'm using their brand of pie crust. Now friends, I've used a lot of store-bought pie crust, and I have to say I really like the Aldi brand. It's always very tender, it's very easy, never dry, and I like the fact that they put the parchment paper in between them. And not all of the brands do that, what makes it very difficult when you're trying to work with it, unroll it, get stick together. So I'm very pleased with the Aldi brand pie crust. Many people have told me that the Food Lion brand pie crust is probably more superior than the other brands. I haven't tried that, and maybe one day I'll give it a shot and see if it's better than the Aldi brand. Now I am tucking in the pie crust, not crimping it. I find this works better when you're cutting into the pie crust later. Okay, now I'm going to start slicing up the potatoes. Now guys, don't cringe. Don't cringe. I know you're like, where is your gourd? I couldn't find it. So I'm trying really carefully not to cut my fingers off at this point. I'm only showing you one potato I'm slicing. I figure you can grasp on how to slice a potato. If you don't have a mandolin, you do want to thinly slice these potatoes. Now, in this particular case, one large russet potato did make 2 layers for me. So each potato did allow me to make 4 layers. One potato, 2 layers, the other potato, 2 layers. Keep in mind, if you don't have large russet potatoes, just make sure you have enough potato slice to deem 4 layers. Now, after you get this, see, I'm trying to be very careful and make sure I get every inch of that potato sliced. Now, once you have them all sliced, at this point you want to start preparing your pie crust for those layers. I'm only going to show you 2 layers. I'm showing you the first layer, and I'm going to show you the last layer. I feel like you can get the concept of how to place those potatoes in that pie pan. As you can see that I'm putting it in a circular motion. 1, this helps it evenly cook, but 2, it also looks pretty when you cut into the pie. And of course, you want your food to be pretty, right? But it does help with the cooking process. Now, the recipe only calls for salt and pepper. However, I'm adding 2 more ingredients, and I've always added these ingredients because I just feel like it just sets it off a little bit better and the flavors are better. I'm salt and peppering it. That is what the recipe calls. It calls for salt and pepper to each layer, and then the cream. However, I'm going to put salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Today, I am actually using garlic salt, and I get this garlic salt from Aldi. I like the fact that they put parsley on it, or in the mixture, and that's what I'm using today. So, garlic salt, pepper, and I'm also going to put a little layer of Parmesan. I've always put a little cheese in between each layer. For some reason, I just feel like we just need more cheese. Potatoes and cheese is a good combination, but the recipe does not call for any cheese whatsoever. On special occasions, I'll step it up and actually do some Gruyere cheese, which is good. So if you're not a fan of cheese, obviously it's not needed and it's not requested in the recipe. I'm putting about 2 ladles of this cream, actually probably a ladle and a half. I want to make sure all of the potatoes are covered with that cream. And then right here, remember to put cream on each layer, all 4 layers. This is the last layer, the last and final layer of this torte. It's the 4th layer. And of course, the last layer, you're going to put a little bit more ingredients on it. We're going to add that bacon on top of it and then top it with the last pie crust. Now, I will have to tell you folks, for whatever reason, I've been making this recipe for a good long while, at least for 10 years. And I always have to use a lot more cream. I don't know why. Like I said, start with a cup. I probably use a cup and a half, and maybe I should just start with heating up a cup and a half. What's important to know is that all the cream that I do put in, it does get absorbed between the pie crust and the potatoes. So apparently I'm not overdoing it. I'm putting enough. So salt, pepper, garlic powder, a little bit more Parmesan cheese, and last but not least, the best part, and that is the bacon. The recipe, as I mentioned, says to half crossways the bacon. That makes it very difficult to cut, friends, I will tell you, and you want to cut these up in pie slices. And if you leave your bacon that way, it just makes it difficult, 1, to slice, and 2nd, to eat. And it's not as pretty. It's not as pretty. You will see I have the measuring cup, and notice that it had some remnants of cream when I used it to fill the saucepan, so I just added it to the top. Waste not, want not, as they say. And I'm going to put a little, what's left of the cream on top, and it won't be enough. Again, I tend to use more heavy cream than what the recipe calls for, so just keep that in mind. If you get to the bottom of your saucepan, all I do is I pull out that container of whipping cream and add enough to it to cover the top of the potatoes. You just want to make sure all the potatoes are properly covered with the cream. That's what you're looking for. So once your last layer, your 4th layer, is complete, we have 2 more steps to go, and that is to top the last pie crust on top of the potato torte. But you also want to preheat the oven to 375 degrees. This is the potatoes, raw potatoes, so it's going to take an hour to cook. So just a little tip. For the first 30 minutes, I do take a piece of aluminum foil and just place it on top, so that way my crust doesn't get burned. I have a convection oven, so I feel like it cooks pretty quickly, and so to prevent that, I will cover my torte for about 30 minutes and then take it off for the last 30 minutes, and it usually turns out just perfect. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, I am going to tuck in the pie crust. I was watching a French chef one afternoon, and he mentioned that this would be an easier way to make a pie for the crust. I don't know if you've ever had an issue, but if you crimp it and you try to take it out of the pie pan, it like falls all over the place, and it makes a mess, and it separates from the pie, and it just doesn't always turn out the best when you crimp it onto the pie pan. So by me tucking it in, it does a much better job. It stays together, it stays intact, and most importantly, it turns out really pretty. And that's what's important, right? A pretty pie, or in this case, a pretty potato torte. Don't forget to vent your pie on top. And the last thing that we're going to do is put a little heavy cream on top, brush it on to help make the pie crust brown a bit. Now, the recipe says a tablespoon, and as you can see, I'm using much more than a tablespoon. Maybe that's why my pie crust browns a little bit faster, because I drench it with all that heavy cream, but you know, guys, if you have it, you might as well use it. So I would say maybe that's 2 tablespoons of cream. Either way, it turns out delicious. Now, I will have to tell you guys, this is a delicious recipe. It It does take a long time to cook and prepare. I'm making this on a Sunday, so we're actually going to eat it on this day, and we will eat it actually 2 more nights. One night again as a family, and then another night as our leftover night. And I think my husband actually had some for breakfast with a side of eggs one morning. So this goes a long ways. The servings for this recipe is for 8. So it's great to cook once and eat twice for sure. Now it is ready to go into the oven. Look how beautiful it looks. It's not even cooked yet. It looks pretty to me. This will go in for 1 hour. Once it's complete, they tell you to take it out of the oven and set it aside for 30 minutes. I didn't wait 30 minutes. I only waited 15 and it came out just fine. Those are our dishes for this evening. As you can see, my children are having string beans. And there we go, our completed bacon potato torte, ready to serve. They're also having some salad greens and some cucumber slices. There's my husband's slice. Look at all those beautiful potato layers. Came out very nice. Very happy with how it turned out that evening. The next slice you see in that slice is for my daughter Amelia, the tiniest one of the family. She loves potatoes, so I knew she would really like this dish. And Ava had the smaller piece. I was concerned that she wouldn't like it. She's not a huge fan of potatoes cooked like this, but she did try it, and she ate half and said, I think I'm good. I don't care for the texture, but at least she tried it. I appreciate her giving it a whirl for me and expanding her palate. The littlest one has to have ketchup with her potatoes. She has to have ketchup, it seems like, with everything. And then they also were getting some strawberries there on the side because they like fruit with their dinner. And I added some turkey meat, deli turkey meat, because both of them wanted it with their dinner this evening. And my husband and I had side salads. And this was perfect. It was hearty. It was very filling. Friends, if you're making this on a Saturday or Sunday for the weeknight, all you have to do during the weeknight is to cut individual slices, heat them up in the air fryer or oven, and it's ready to serve. Fried rice and eggs with garlic soy vinaigrette. Friends, I will have to say, this is a recipe that came together extremely quickly on this night, and it was a very busy night. We had a lot of transition. My husband was coming in, I was going out, kids at different activities, and this cooked up quick and was good for cooking in stages or eating in stages. Right here I am making the vinaigrette. You'll need 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of rice vinegar, and this is where I did a sub. I actually did 2 teaspoons of white vinegar because I wasn't going to pay for rice vinegar because of the price. So it busted my budget. And then 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. You can stir that up and set that to the side. You will also need 1 onion halved and thinly sliced. Now, I did not use an onion. I used green onion because, like I said before, I have a ton of green onion and I wanted to use it before it went bad. And then you want to do 3 garlic cloves, finely minced or pressed through a garlic press. And as you can see, I am using the garlic press this evening. That is one of my favorite kitchen tools. It's quite substantial. I had one before, it was really flimsy, but this one is by far a good substantial garlic press to do the job. Now you want to saute the onions and the garlic to it gets soft, translucent in nature, but most importantly fragrant. This took about 2 minutes to saute, and once it's sauteed, that is when you want to add the rice. Now the recipe calls for 2.5 cups of cooked brown rice. I did not use brown rice. I used white rice because I prefer that better. And I did cook the rice on a Sunday, so that way I didn't have to worry about it on this day because I knew it was going to be busy. And I didn't want to wait for the rice to cook. And so as you can see, the rice is a little clumpy because it's cold. And as I'm cooking this, I will add just a tad of water just to soften, moisten it up. recipe also calls for 2 tablespoons of grated fresh ginger. I could not find fresh ginger, and the thing about ginger, it can be pricey, but you can get as big or as large of a piece as you need, and it's weighed by the ounce, but I couldn't find it. So I just decided to use my dried ginger that I already had in my spice cabinet. Now this was a surprising spice. I didn't realize that this particular recipe called for 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I thought it was going to be just like any other fried rice recipe, but no, it was not. It called for the chili powder, and I have to say it was a different flavor, but very enjoyable. It was a good mixture of spices between the ginger and the chili powder. You can see I added the water there. I wanted to soften up the cold rice. It still had some clumps. Wanted to get it moist, and I wanted to make sure that the chili powder and the ginger, because it was dry, it got incorporated into the rice well. So that's why I added some additional water, and it just steamed the rice back up to the texture that I wanted it that evening. I also added, and you don't see it here, you'll see it towards the end of this this video, I added some mushrooms. I had some leftover mushrooms from another recipe, and I thought I'd saute them up and put them in the fried rice. It was a nice addition, but the recipe did not call for those mushrooms. This what makes this dish really easy for a busy night. You can cook to order. When my husband came in, I was able to just cook the egg to his liking. He wanted it sunny side up, so that's how I did it. And as you know, eggs cook up really fast. There's my little Amelia. She's saying hello. She just got back from trampoline class. Now, if you're wondering, Heather, did you eat the egg? I did eat the egg, and I ate it sunny side up. I actually cut it all up and mixed it in my rice, and it was delicious. It was great. I typically don't mind eggs in fried rice as long as it's not over eggy. And that one egg fried on top, and as I chopped it up and mixed it in with my rice, it was just perfect. So yes, I did. I ate the egg on top of the, it started on top of the rice, but it ended it up all on top. I mean, all mixed in. Right, the egg is done. You just want to put that on top of the fried rice and stir your vinegar up really well. Whisk it again, and you want to pour the vinaigrette on top of the rice as well as the egg, and top it with a little extra green onion. That makes it delicious. And I had some leftover green beans that were steamed from another evening. I heated those up, chopped them up, and put them alongside of the fried rice and egg. And little Amelia, she did not have the egg, but she did have the fried rice and some pork chops, and she enjoyed it. And my daughter Ava scrambled her eggs in her fried rice, but everyone enjoyed the dish. It was a different flavor. I was very surprised on how quickly this dish came together that evening. Okay, friends, this is the last recipe, and by the name of it, you're saying, oh, we're going to have tuna tonight, but not in my family's case. My children do not like tuna. It's too strong for them, so that's why I purchased the turkey deli meat. We had that instead. So I wanted to at least let you see what the picture looked like in the cookbook, because on this night we were going in all different directions, and this was a perfect recipe because it allowed us to be very mobile. So let me tell you how I put mine together. I did have 4 large eggs already boiled, and I did some steamed green beans. You need about 1/2 pound, and you also need 2 large red potatoes. I had 1 large russet potato. I cubed that up, boiled it with some salt, and cubed that up and had it ready to go for that evening. 1 head of romaine lettuce, sliced crossways, and then they say 2 5-ounce cans of packed light tuna. And as you know, I didn't do that, so I sliced up some turkey meat to go on the salad. 2 scallions, white and green, trimmed and finely chopped, and then 1 tomato half, seeded and chopped. 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground black pepper. Now, let's put the vinaigrette together. You need 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, a juice of 1/2 of a lemon, 1/2 of a teaspoon of white vinegar, 1/4 of a cup of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of finely chopped fresh thyme. I use 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, 1/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground black pepper. You want to whisk that really well and set it to the side. As you can see, this is how I've prepared it for my children, and then my husband and I separated the items for my children. They prefer it that way. And of course, Amelia had a little bit of ketchup for her potatoes. Now, for my husband and I did set the salad up like we saw in the cookbook. Obviously, the bed of lettuce with the lined up turkey and potatoes and tomatoes and the green beans. I salt and peppered it. I did put the vinaigrette on the side, and once we got to our locations, we put our own vinaigrette as much as we wanted on the salad. This was a perfect menu item meal plan for this evening because we were going in a lot of different directions. I picked a salad that everyone enjoyed, and most importantly, it was nice and hearty. Friends, I will put the ingredients and the recipe in the description below. I hope you try it. It was delicious.
Okay, friends, it is a wrap. We've had 6 meals, and I will have to say, all 6, they were delicious. And I told everyone at the beginning of this video that I am not an egg person. I don't really enjoy eating eggs. As I've gotten older, I will on occasion. However, I really try just not to eat them. So I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I did that because I was told that heavy cream, whipping cream, whatever you want to call it, if you put that in scrambled eggs, it will change the texture of it. It'll make it fluffier versus rubbery, which is the reason why I don't like scrambled eggs. And they were right. It was actually very fluffy with the flavors that I put into it, with the mushrooms and the salt and the pepper, the Parmesan cheese, and the green onions. Oh, it really was delicious, and I will be eating that again, especially when I put it over the French bread toast that I made. That really made it the best. So I'm proud of myself. I stepped outside my box. I tell my kids all the time, try something different, eat, expand your palate, and I did. I practiced what I preach, and that's important as a parent. And my kid even knew, Ava, she said, Mom, you don't like eggs, why are you eating it? And I said, I need to step outside my, my boundaries. I gotta step outside. I gotta feel it. I gotta try some new things. And I did. So hopefully I taught her a lesson that you do have to try new things, and which is why she did try new things this week. And there was a lot of flavor going on in a lot of our dishes. She tried it. She didn't like one of them, but she liked the rest of them. So I feel like that's a job well done, most importantly. Now, that cost for $60 is $59.98. And in the state of North Carolina, we don't have a heavy food tax. We have a very light food tax. So if I included tax in that, it would be like $61, I think, and some change, which is not bad. Some states have food tax, some states do not. So just depends on where you are. Ingredients vary from one region to another. Right now, eggs are still very affordable compared to the other parts of the United States of what I've seen. Today I checked, it's been a week ago. I checked at Walmart, 18 eggs are like up to $4. So they're getting up there. Anyway, it's definitely worth the try that I did this week, is seeing if it met still $10 dinners after being written, what, 12, 13 years ago? Still was able to accomplish it. I did it by using several ingredients over one recipe, from one recipe to another recipe over a course of 6 days. It was accomplished. So friends, I hope I inspired you to do something outside your box as well, since I did it, but to give you some other recipe ideas to give to your family, because we all get in that rut. I am guilty, and maybe this will inspire you to try something different as well. I will make sure I include all these recipes in the description box below. And until next time, guys, be safe and stay encouraged.